Welcome to Springdale High's Veterans Day Assembly. No one in this building can even remember the last time we had one. So today is the start of a new tradition. We're hoping with every passing year, this will get bigger and better with more people able to attend. It has been my honor to lead and set up this assembly to honor our veterans and every veteran out there. So can you all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for the national anthem, led by Molly Adamson.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Well, that was awesome. So our guest speaker today is Mr. David A. Vining. He received his calling from the government in the spring of 1967, well into the middle of the Vietnam conflict. Given a choice of the different branches of service, he chose to enlist in the U.S. Army. He underwent 8 weeks of basic infantry training at Fort Benning, Georgia. Next, he took advanced individual training at the Military Police School at Fort Gorgon, Georgia. His first duty station was to be with the Continental Army's headquarters, 559th Military Police Company at Fort Monroe, Virginia, which was built before the American Civil War. During his 13 months there, he was assigned basic military police duties, but also volunteered special service duties, where for one summer he worked as a lifeguard at the Fort's Beach on Chesapeake Bay. He worked with others for parades, weddings, funerals, prisoner escorts, and for 3 months as a 4-star general's bodyguard. So don't mess with him. He was then transferred to South Korea to be part of the United Kingdom's peacekeeping force that is still there to this day, guarding against the possible invasion by North Korea. He served 6 months assigned as an accident investigator at the 7th Infantry Division headquarters at Camp Casey. He was then moved to Camp Kaiser for 1 year to be a liaison between America, South Korean, and Thailand military police companies along the demilitarized zone separating the North and South Korean countries. Mr. David A. Vining.
Thank you. Can y'all hear me? Okay. Before I start, this is about the 6th or 7th or 8th time that I've given this speech, and it still hits me hard, and I might get emotional at some time or another, but if you know anything about people who believe in what something is important to this, don't feel bad about it. Today, many people around our country are celebrating Veterans Day. Several schools will be having assemblies, such as this one, to honor veterans who are and have served our country since the 1700s. But who are these people that carry the designation veteran? The short answer is they are and were patriots. What is a patriot? My 1965 high school dictionary, which is mine, defines patriot as a person who loves his country and zealously supports its authority and interests. And patriotism is defined as a love of country and the devotion to the welfare of one's country. Do you have a hero? I don't mean a favorite comic book or a movie star hero. I mean a real, honest-to-goodness hero, such as a Medal of Honor winner. The highest honor paid by our country is to a hero veteran, is the Medal of Honor. The award was created by President Abraham Lincoln in 1862, to honor those soldiers who gave their lives in defense of their country, and is so revered that it commands the ultimate prestige above any other honor bestowed on an American. These Soldier Medal of Honor recipients did not aspire to earn this award. It was given often posthumously to a gallant soldier who took on the enemy under extreme and incredible, insurmountable odds to save the lives of his fellow soldiers. From the first Army Medal of Honor award given on March 25th, 1863, to the most recent Medal of Honor given on September 15th, 2014, of the more than 40 million veterans who have served since the beginning of the Civil War, only 3,469 medals have been given. Quoting President Harry S. Truman from an awards ceremony in 1945, he said, "I would much rather have that medal around my neck than to be President of the United States." I'd like to read you the information about the Medal of Honor winner. And what he did was not planned, it just happened. Sergeant First Class Bernie Adkins. The Army says that as many as 175 enemy troops were killed. 18 wounds. He received 18 wounds from the enemy. 38 hours of battle, 48 hours evading North Vietnamese troops in the bush, and 1 Tiger. Those are the numbers behind the Sergeant First Class Bernie Adkins Medal of Honor, an award he received by President Barack Obama on September 15, 2014. And the citation reads thusly: Sergeant First Class Adkins distinguished himself during the period of 9 March 1966 to 12 March 1966 during combat operations at Camp A Shau, Republic of Vietnam. When the camp was attacked by a large Viet Cong force, Sergeant First Class Adkins rushed through the intense hostile fire and manned a mortar position. Although he was wounded, he ran through the exploding mortar rounds and dragged several of his comrades to safety. When the hostile fire subsided, Sergeant First Class Adkins exposed himself to sporadic sniper fire and carried his wounded comrades to the camp dispensary. During the evacuation of a seriously wounded American, Sergeant First Class Adkins maneuvered outside the camp walls to draw fire and successfully recovered more to rescue. During the early morning hours of 10 March, a Viet Cong regiment launched their main attack. Within 2 hours, Sergeant First Class Adkins was the only man firing a mortar weapon. Although he was painfully wounded and most of his crew were killed or wounded, he fought off the fanatical waves of attacking Viet Cong. After withdrawing to a communications bunker where several Americans were attempting to fight off a company of Viet Cong, Sergeant First Class Adkins killed numerous insurgents with his suppressive fire. Running extremely low on ammunition, he returned to the mortar pit, gathered up vital information or ammunition, and ran through intense fire back to the communications bunker. After being ordered to evacuate the camp, all signal equipment and classified documents were destroyed. Sergeant First Class Adkins was and a small group of men fought their way out of the camp and evaded Viet Cong for 2 days until they were rescued by helicopter. Sergeant First Class Atkins' extraordinary heroism in close combat against a numerically superior hostile force was in keeping with the highest traditions of the military service and reflects great credit upon him, his unit, and the United States Army. Heck of a man. So back to veterans. They have earned the right to be called so because they have taken patriotism idea to its highest level. The actual engagement of warfare against any and all who would try to take away the freedoms we so enjoy in our country. Many thousands have shown their love of country by having paid the full price with their own lives in its defense. To the medic, the cook, the mechanic, the clerk, the unsung person who in support of the team kept the fighting men, servicemen, and women in action, they all did what their country asked of them without question. Have you ever wondered why so many veterans go unnoticed? It's because they gave when they were called upon to serve, not for recognition. It was because they were doing their share of the burden, and it was their turn. These were just ordinary people like your fathers, your uncles, your grandfathers, yes, your mothers, aunts, and grandmothers, who gave up everything for the call of duty, proudly did their job, and came home to continue where they left off. It is only right and fitting that we who are citizens of this great nation, that have so many rights and freedoms and privileges not afforded to people of other countries, show honor and respect to those veterans. What is Veterans Day? To quote from the Department of Defense's History of Veterans Day, World War I, known as the Great War, officially ended when the Treaty of Versailles was signed in June 28, 1919, at the Palace of Versailles, France. The fighting had ceased 7 months earlier when an armistice or temporary cessation of hostilities between Allied nations and Germany went into effect on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month in 1918. And that day is generally regarded as the end of the war of all wars. An act approved in 1938 made the 11th November in each year a legal holiday known as Armistice Day. After American forces had fought aggression in Korea during the early 1950s, the 83rd Congress of the United States, at the urging of veteran service organizations, amended that act of 1938 by striking out the word armistice and inserting in its place the word veterans. With the approval of this legislation, Public Law 380 on June 1st, 1954, November 11th became the day to honor American veterans of all wars. Later that year, President Dwight D. Eisenhower issued the first Veterans Day proclamation by stating, "In order to ensure proper and widespread observance of this anniversary, all veterans organizations, and the entire citizenry will wish to join hands in the common purpose." Can you spot a vet? You know what they look like? Some veterans bear visible signs of their service. A missing limb, a jagged scar, that certain look in his eye. Others may carry the evidence inside them. A pin holding a bone together, a piece of shrapnel in the leg, an unexplained quick reaction to a loud noise. Or perhaps another sort of inner steel, the soul's ally forged in the refinery of adversity. Except in parades, however, the men and women who have kept America safe wear no badges or emblems. You can't tell a vet by just looking at him. He's the cop on the beat who spent 6 months in Saudi Arabia answering to sweating 2 gallons a day, making sure the armored personnel carrier didn't run out of fuel. He's the barroom loudmouth, dumber than 5 wooden planks, whose overgrown frat boy behavior was outweighed 100 times by the cosmic scales by the hours of exquisite bravery near the 38th parallel in Korea. She or he is the nurse who fought against futility and went to sleep sobbing every night for 2 solid years in denying Vietnam. He is the prisoner of war who went away one person and came back another, or didn't come back at all. He is the Quantico drill instructor that has never seen combat, but has saved countless lives by turning slouchy, no-account rednecks or gang members into Marines and teaching them to watch each other's backs. He is the parade-riding legionnaire who pins on his ribbons and medals with a prosthetic hand. He is the career quartermaster who watches the ribbons and medals pass by because he stayed back in the office. There are 3 anonymous heroes in the Tomb of the Unknowns, whose presence at the Arlington National Cemetery must forever preserve the memory of all anonymous heroes who have died unrecognized, with them on the battlefield or in the ocean's sunless deep. He's the old guy bagging groceries at the supermarket, palsied now and aggravatingly slow, who helped liberate the Nazi death camps, and who wishes all day long that his wife were still with him to hold him when the nightmares came. He's an ordinary yet extraordinary human being, a person who offered some of his life's most vital years in the service of his country, and who would sacrifice his ambitions so others would not have to sacrifice theirs. He is a soldier and a savior and a sword against the darkness. And he is nothing more than the finest, greatest testimony on behalf of the finest, greatest nation ever known. So remember, each time you see someone who has served the country, just lean over and say, thank you. That's all most people need. And in most cases, it will mean more than any medals that they could have ever awarded or were given. 2 little words that mean a lot. Thank you. And someday, and hopefully not, if the call comes out to you to take your turn to serve the country, you will take up that banner and carry on the traditions of the United States veteran. And that, my friends, is why we're here today, to honor veterans. Always remember, never forget. Thank you.